Before I begin the video, I just want to give a huge thanks to everybody who subscribed and who stuck around from the Smash Brothers video. That video has almost 40,000 views now, which is actually really insane. I've never had any video do nearly as well as that, and I gained almost 350 subscribers from it at the current time of recording, so I just want to give a really big thanks to everybody who's decided to stick around and who's excited to see what other contents I got for you in the future. So thank you again and enjoy the video. The Nintendo Switch has proved to be quite the success, and most of that credit goes to the amazing games that we've already seen in the console's first year. Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey were both extremely well-received titles that helped establish the console's stellar game lineup, but now that Nintendo's two heavy hitters are on store shelves, they'll have to continue to release impressive games to keep up the Switch's momentum. And that brings us to the brand new mainline Pokémon RPG that will be releasing on the Switch sometime in the hopefully near future. There's been a lot of leaks regarding this game, some of which have already been debunked, and some that might actually give us some real insight on what to expect. In this video, I'll be taking a look at some of those leaks and then using them to create an idea of what we might be able to expect for the new Pokémon Switch game. So let's get started. Okay, let's start with the basics. During Nintendo's E3 2017 press conference, the president of the Pokémon Company revealed that Game Freak had begun work on a core Pokémon RPG for the Nintendo Switch. Fast forward a couple of months to late 2017, and then we start to see the rumors flying around. We received information from multiple sources on the new region's plot, inspiration, and gameplay, giving us our first impression of the game. Some of the details seemed a little bit sketchy, so I'm just going to focus on the most reasonable aspects of the leaks. First up, we have the plot. Apparently, the game is meant to tackle the theme of tradition versus innovation, which is interesting on its own, but even more so because it kind of parallels the concept of the Switch itself. I think this would be a pretty cool topic to explore. Next, we have the inspiration for the region. Just as Unova was based on the United States and Kalos on France, this new region is said to be based on either Spain or Italy, or possibly a little bit of both. This seems to be one of the more credible leaks, and if true, will be something that we really haven't seen before. And the last part that I'll be focusing on is the gameplay. This is the part that I'm the least confident in, but for the sake of discussion I will mention it. According to the leak, we might be getting a very different battle system than what we're used to. It seems that we might be looking at real-time battles with simplified mechanics as opposed to the turn-based combat of previous games. I would personally throw this in with the other sketchy rumors, but it does raise a question as to whether or not Game Freak would consider changing up the formula for this rumored reboot of the series. Okay, so that's most of the leaks covered, and it really only leaves us with the fake starter leaks from back in February of 2018. I think this was the second starter leak, but this is definitely the more interesting one of the two. The leak claimed to contain artwork of the Generation 8 starters. The Grass-type starter was based off of a lemur, the Fire-type was based off of a rabbit, and the Water-type was based off of a platypus. I was very skeptical when the leak first came out, and just as I thought, the rumor was debunked pretty quickly. Still, I can't help but admit that these designs were very well made and that the quality and creativity of each starter is on par with what the actual illustrators at Game Freak are capable of. I wouldn't have been upset if they turned out to be real, and I especially like the fact that they kept the designs fairly simple but were still able to convey the personalities of each starter pretty clearly. And that just about wraps up all of the leaks that we've seen so far, but what other information do we have on this new game? Well, we may actually have an idea as to how the game will look on the Switch. The most recent Pokémon titles, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, run on the 3DS, whose native resolution is only 400 by 240 pixels. This tiny resolution makes sense since the screen on the 3DS is really small, but it really holds the graphics of any 3DS title back by quite a large margin. But even though Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon run at 400 by 240 pixels, the actual models in the game's data are rendered at a much higher resolution and can even be scaled up to 4K while still looking really clean. By removing the black outlines around each of the models and scaling up the resolution of the game to 1080p, this is what Ultra Sun and Moon look like. The difference is huge, and by updating the resolution of the background details and the UI, this could definitely pass as a Switch game. The big question here is, why bother making the models so high quality if they were just going to be downscaled to fit the tiny 3DS resolution? It's most likely because they were planning to use these same models for their upcoming Pokémon Switch game. As I said before, with a little bit of cleanup here and there, they would be able to really easily use these models for the Pokémon Switch game and speed up the development process quite a bit. Assuming that the game will take place in a brand new region and include at least 100 new Pokémon, it would probably take more than a year to develop. But since the previous 800 plus Pokémon already have usable models, a lot of that time is saved and we might actually get to see the game revealed and released before the end of 2018. So now that we have all of that covered, let's talk about what new features the Pokémon Switch game might include. First and foremost is the possibility of an open world. Now I'm not talking Breath of the Wild levels of open world, but I would love to be able to freely explore the Pokémon world. Most of the Pokémon games are pretty linear, but with the capabilities of the Nintendo Switch, I think it would be smart to expand on the RPG elements of the series and design the world to be more open and have more things to do. And that leads to my next point. Quests. Again, previous Pokémon games have been very linear and only focus on the main objective of beating the Pokémon League, with some evil team shenanigans along the way. I would love to see the inclusion of side quests that could range from showing NPCs as specific Pokémon to entire storylines that have no real effect on the main plot. Ultra Sun and Moon dip their toes into side quests a little bit, but I would really like to see this expanded on a much larger scale. Most games in the series have a serious lack of post-game content to play after the Pokémon League is already cleared, and doing something like this would give players a lot more to do. If this really is meant to be a reboot for Pokémon, then Game Freak needs to make a big and positive change like this in order to keep people invested in the series. So that's all we know about Pokémon Switch so far, plus some of the things that I want to see Game Freak add to the game. There's still a lot to talk about in terms of new features and whatnot, so I'll probably leave that for another video. We still don't know all that much about the game, but there has been a rumor floating around recently that says that we might be getting a Pokémon Direct within the next month or so it's very possible that our first look at the new game is just around the corner. Leave a like on the video if you're excited for Pokémon Switch, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.